Now we stop at Tokyo, this 2008 anthology feature collating 3 segments from, in order of their placement, Michel Gondry, Carax, and of course our mate Bong Joon. Uncertain if I have much to say, although my comments will be rather positive, and in one sequence surprisingly so. I was never a particular fan of Michel Gondry's. I was not ever a fan of Eternal Sunshine, although that can be seen as Kaufman's piece more so. It was Science of Sleep which then really induced my ambivalence toward Gondry's output. There was an identifiable aspiration to Gondry's work, which I do appreciate. He's certainly someone who did intrigue me prior to my viewing their films, yet a certain unsubtle, cutesy, blunt humour motivates these pictures, and they confection a particular alternative or irreverence into mainstream structured distractions, the film medium as a hollow respite from the ominously mundane exteriority of one's screening room or theatre complex. I don't feel excitement in saying all of this. I was once acquainted with another who was really fond of his art, and I didn't share my true feelings on those movies with them, and what they saw in them was something beautiful, which resonated with a memorably beautiful person. So knowing myself, it figures there isn't going to be an easy path to admiring Gondry's films unless he directs a non-feature about a... spoilers, you know my feelings on you lot, so do venture elsewhere. Woman transforming into a small wooden chair. The piece's interior design is bleakly humorous, existentially unsettling, and often viscerally frightening. Sans maybe a Massive Attack or Daft Punk video clip, this might be my favourite item in the Gondry oeuvre, though with an inevitably lesser soundtrack than a Massive Attack video, obviously. More surprisingly, interior design is in respect the most fascinating, distinct segment of this film, and not that it is the best or most intrinsically interesting of them either. The second segment, Leos Carax's, is the prototype work for what would later be 2012's Holy Motor's most well-remembered scene, that of the unexplainable rampaging humanoid known as Merde, which translates into French as shit, yes. One which renders Holy Motor's Merde moment a touch tame by comparison. This segment, titled Merde, is genuinely disturbing in a way that the later work avoided, substituting dark comedy and detached absurdism instead of incomprehensible horror and inextinguishable terrors. It could be presumed that Merde in this form is closer to what Carax imagined his vision as, due to Holy Motors being shot with digital cameras so as to ensure any initial funding. Merde is less of a compromise in a sense. It was shot via high-definition video, onto cassettes, to those of you too young to gauge what that entails. I would claim that Merde is the best segment in this anthology feature, although to those who have seen Holy Motors prior, and multiple times in my own case, Merde is of less interest compared with the major shock of Gondry's interior design before it, so slightly less memorable due to my own history with the Merde character from the film which came out a few years later than interior design, although I would still name it the superior cinematic composition within this modest trilogy presented here. And so then, our man of the week or two, Bong Joon-ho's segment titled Shaking Tokyo, is perhaps the least memorable of the trio, although it is very far from being dispensable. An incredibly sweet, wholesome premise is maybe marred by the execution to some extent. I am less interested in the emphasis on humour compared with the sincerely emotive stridence of one likably convicted daydreamer, that being Joon-ho. I do appreciate the inescapably fantastical premise and its admirable resolve in directing something so brazenly optimistic. Maybe I am comparing it too negatively to his short film Incoherence, recently viewed as part of Korean Academy of Film Arts' My Beautiful Short Stories Volume 2, which was discussed on this channel not long ago to this upload. Although that piece ran for longer than Shaking Tokyo had, perhaps only by 10 minutes odd though. Tokyo is thoroughly recommended here to anyone interested. I avoided screen cap so to have potentially enabled a fresh experience of this film in your mind if you ever do sit down in front of it. And once again, thanks again.